We are going to take each continent one by one and we're going to deal with all the aspects of the mapping. We have North America, we have South America, we have Africa, we have Europe, Asia, and we have Australia, we have Antarctica, right? Now where is Australia? Now something very basic. Now if I want to ask what is the precise location of Australia, then what do we see over here? When you practice, the shape of the map will be closer to what it is actually. If you do not practice, then possibly what you will do? You will draw like this. This might look like an amoeba. Now, what do you mean by Oceania? This is something very interesting and very important. This can be asked in your papers also. Australia, along with Polynesia, along with Melanesia, along with Micronesia, forms the Oceania. And a question can be asked, the national capital, that is Canberra, lies in which state? It lies in... Hello aspirants, welcome to PW OnlyIAS. I am here Harpreet Singh with another series from the subject of geography. After the Indian Physical Geography series, many students mailed us and messaged us that we need a world mapping series. And here we are with a world mapping series where we are going to take each continent one by one and we're going to deal with all the aspects of the mapping. Now, why it is important, please understand. We generally tend to study the Indian geography and the Indian physical geography and we neglect the world mapping series, and very often you come across questions that might be 3 or 4 in number in your preliminary examination in particular, where if you have not done the world mapping series, possibly you will miss on those important marks. Along with it, in your main examination also, we are going to cover a lot of aspects like even the mineral resources that are present in the various continents, which is very relevant for your mains examination also. So please remember this. This is a very, very important series. Every week on Thursday, you're going to get a video on the continent mapping. Like we are going to start with the Australia in this particular video. Now, please remember how you have to go along with it. While I am giving you this lecture, you should have an A4 sheet along with you. When I'm showing you a map, when I'm explaining something, please note it down along with it. Why it is important is, those few papers of noting down will help you to quickly revise during the examinations and will help you get better marks in your prelims and the mains examination. Keeping this in mind, we're going to start with a world mapping series. The first continent that we're going to take is Australia. So there's a specific continent that we are going to take. That is the Australian continent for you. And we're going to begin with this. So let's begin with the mapping of Australia. So before we begin, this is my Telegram account. After the lecture, you can find the PDF, this particular PDF on which I have written in my Telegram account, where you can find a lot of information regarding geography, regarding anthropology optional, regarding society and civil services in general, right? Now, one more thing, very, very important. Before we begin, it is something important for you to note. If you genuinely follow this mapping series, I am guaranteeing you one thing. There will be no single question in your preliminary examinations from the mapping or the world mapping that you will not be able to attempt. So this is the first point. Second point, we are not going to go into those mapping aspects which are not relevant for UPSC. So we have to be very target oriented. These two things we have to keep in mind, and with this we will begin with the mapping series. And remember, as a trademark of ours, every single map has been drawn by hand, so that you also get a flavor that these maps can be made by hand and we can practice it also. So let's begin with today's series. That is Australia. Australia and Oceania. We'll understand these things. Now, this is a world map, which again is drawn by hand. Now, when we see this world map, we come across so many continents, right? We have North America, we have South America, we have Africa, we have Europe, we along with that have Asia, then we have Australia, we have Antarctica, right? Now, where is Australia? Now, something very basic, but again, you should know, we have Australia that is here. Now, see, these are very basic things, but these things become important when you're preparing for the civil services, because in your examination, particularly preliminary examination, when such questions are asked, at that time you are so tensed, that time you're so nervous, possibly you tend to forget even the basic things. So what do we understand from this? First of all, it is lying south of the equator. First, Tropic of Capricorn is cutting it. So this is a location. Now, if I want to understand the precise location of Australia, let me see the world map from a very different perspective. Let's see. Now see, as we did with respect to India also, now this is the prime meridian, that is 0° longitude. Clear? Now this is equator, that is 0° latitude. Now see, all the parts, if we see in this map, that are on the eastern side of the prime meridian, this is known as the eastern hemisphere. All those parts which are present, or the countries which are present on the west of the prime meridian, are referred to as the western hemisphere. Clear? Again, all those countries or parts which are present above the or north of the equator are referred to as the northern hemisphere. These are what? Northern hemispheres, right? Part. All those south of the equator are referred to as the southern hemisphere. Now, if I want to ask what is the precise location of Australia, then what do we see over here? First of all, it is in the southern hemisphere. Secondly, it is in the eastern hemisphere. So if I want to know the precise location of Australia, it is southeastern hemisphere. Now what happens is, when this particular statement comes as one line in your preliminary examination, at that time you are confused. Okay, south we know, whether it is east, whether it is west. So that is why these things become important for you to remember, right? So it is southeastern hemisphere is the precise or the exact location of Australia, right? Let's begin. Now, if you see here, let us understand certain basic facts also regarding Australia. But before we go there, something that is very, very important is, this is a map that I have drawn by hand. Now, many people will say that drawing maps becomes really very difficult initially. See, when I used to draw the maps, whether it is Indian map, whether it is African map or Australian map, see, we need to be practical, not idealistic. When you are drawing right now, when you're practicing, try to draw, use this as a reference and try to draw it. In the examination, possibly you will have very less time. But if you have practiced it well, you can draw this map in less than, let us say, I would say, rather than less than 3 seconds or 4 seconds, this map can be drawn, provided you have practiced it many times. Now, what does practice make a difference in this particular mapping? See, when you practice, the shape of the map will be closer to what it is actually. If you do not practice, then possibly what you will do? You will draw like this. This might look like an amoeba. So important is, with practice, the precision comes. So this precision will come with practice. So I would request everybody to, at least while you are watching this video, pause this video for 2 minutes, right? Pause this video for 2 minutes right now and draw this map at least twice or thrice, right? You can pause this video, draw this map. Now you will see the difference, that once you have drawn, you will get this, you will get handy of this map, that this is easier to draw it. Now you can proceed with the other parts. Now let's see. If I see Australia, there are certain basic facts which you need to know. Important thing, it is the smallest continent. Again, something that is mentioned in your NCERT also. Now you'll say, so which NCERT? Please remember, the old NCERTs had in their class 6, 7th and 8th, chapters of Australia, Africa, different continents was taught earlier on. Now they are not part of the new NCERTs, but they were earlier on, right? So rather in detail, they were in early chapters in the old NCERTs. So what we have done is, we have taken the content from the old NCERTs, because UPSC has over the years consistently used those NCERTs to create the questions. So that is why it becomes these lectures particularly become very important, because these are meeting the exact demand of the Union Public Service Commission examinations, right? So it is firstly the smallest continent among all the continents, first. Second, it is the 6th largest country. These are two things that you should remember. Why? Because these are very often asked as statements in your preliminary examination. At that time, when we are not able to recall, supposing that they ask you it is the 5th largest country or 6th largest or 7th largest, at that time you will not be able to remember because you haven't read it. So this is very important. Again, now please see, it is an island, right? But it is also a continent. That is why it is known as an island continent. Now it is in the southern hemisphere, so that is why it is also known as a southern continent. So these are various names through which Australia can be labeled as, right? In various books, various words are used, so I've mentioned all of them. Now it is very huge, 76.9 lakh square kilometers. Now you yourself imagine India's 32 lakh 87,000 kilometers approximately, right? Now on the other hand, this is 76.9 lakh square kilometers, so it is huge. The problem over here is because large portions of it are basically desert regions. So that is why you realize the population density is restrained or restricted to only very few important metropolitan cities that are present. So that is something very important that you should know also, right? Let's continue with the series. Now, very, very important. When I started with this particular Australian video, you would see that I have mentioned a particular word, Australia and Oceania, right? Australia, you very well know. I had made this diagram also. Now, what do you mean by Oceania? This is something very interesting and very important. This can be asked in your papers also. Now, see, what does Oceania means? See, Australia, along with the various adjoining islands that are present here, which includes the Polynesian Islands, which this is red in red that I presented, the Melanesian Islands, which I presented in yellow, and then you have the Micronesian Islands, which are presented in pink. Along with Australia, this whole setup is known as Oceania. Why Oceania? There's a reason behind it, because everywhere you see they're surrounded by ocean. Because Australia itself is an island continent along with all these islands. Many people commit a mistake or an error. They consider that Oceania basically means all these islands. They do not include Australia into that. Now, this can be asked as a question in your preliminary examination, that while we are talking with reference to Oceania, which among the following are included under it? First, Polynesian Islands, then second, Melanesian, third, Micronesian, and then they can put as Australia and even New Zealand after that. Now, what will happen? You will assume that no, Oceania is possibly only the islands that are present, not Australia, and you'll mark it wrong. So please remember, Australia, Micronesia, Melanesia, Polynesia, all are part of your Oceania as a combined form. Now, let us go into a little bit about the details of the certain islands that are present in Polynesia, Melanesia, and Micronesia. Now, why it is important? This has been a question which has been asked multiple times in your CDS examination or also in your NDA papers. This was earlier, many years ago, asked in your preliminary examinations also. So you should have a brief idea which are the important islands of this particular group. Now let us assume something very important. Now, this thing is very often neglected. This set of islands are known as the Polynesian Islands. The Polynesian Island is basically a triangle shaped area which has many islands inside it. At the top is the Hawaii, right? On the western side, if you go, is New Zealand, and on the eastern side are the Easter Islands. Now, many will say, sir, is New Zealand a part of Polynesia? Yes. Very, very important for you to note. This is something that people don't study. New Zealand is a part of the Polynesian Islands. Clear? So, you have New Zealand here, you have Samoa, you have Cook Island here, Tahiti, something very important while reference to climatic changes, observations. So this island is something very important from that perspective. Then you have the Easter Islands, then you have the Marquesas Islands, and obviously the Hawaii. Now these are the most important islands of Polynesia. If the question has to be asked, they will not go beyond these, right? So by noting these down, you are basically ensuring that any question that comes from these specific islands regarding Polynesia, Melanesia, Micronesia, you will be able to attempt them. Now, on the western side of Polynesia, you have another set of islands. These are Melanesian Islands, right? If you see, these can be referred to in the form that they lie on the eastern side and the northeastern side of Australia. You have various islands, very important, Fiji being there, a very important tourist place also. New Caledonia, Vanuatu, Papua New Guinea, Solomon Islands, and Santa Cruz, right? Now, these are the most important islands of Melanesia. And now, if you see, there are multiple other islands going to be there. Now, see, those are not relevant, and that is impossible for you to remember also. Now, these are ones which are important, which have been asked also in the examination, which are relevant even for you today also. Then comes the Micronesian Islands, which are on the north of the Melanesian Islands. You will have Palau, Caroline Islands over here. Then on the north half, you have Marina Islands, you have Marshall Islands, and Kiribati. Now, these are the important set of islands that are present as a part of the Micronesian Islands, right? Or Micronesian group. Now, what do we see? Australia, along with Polynesia, along with Melanesia, along with Micronesia, forms the Oceania. Important thing, one more thing. New Zealand is a part of the Polynesian Islands. Clear? So we have got the knowledge of what Oceania basically means, right? So this is something important. Very often the questions are asked from this particular section, particularly in your PCS examinations also, and obviously various UPSC examinations like CDS, NDA, and obviously the Union Public Service Commission examination. Let's move ahead. Now, as we have seen this map of Australia, now let us move a little bit ahead from the aspects of the political dimension. Very often when you see the map, you see that Australia is divided into various territories or states. Now, please remember, this is again a very important question that can be asked. What are the various states or territories of Australia? Now, if you see states and territories, there are 6 states and there are mainland territories. There are 2 mainland territories. Now, there are other external territories also, like various islands which Australia claims. We are not considering them because those are lesser important. These are the major important dimensions within Australia. So, what are the 6 states and what are the mainland territories? So, these things should be understood. In the examination, you can be asked, which among the following are states of Australia? In that, they might mention Northern Territory and you will get confused. Oh, it's a state, it's a huge region, it is going to be a territory. No, it is a mainland territory. It is not part of your state. So, what are the states? I will show you using a map also. Don't worry about that. But see here, we have the New South Wales, capital being Sydney, Victoria, capital being Melbourne, Queensland, capital being Brisbane, South Australia, capital being Adelaide, West Australia, capital being Perth, Tasmania, capital being Hobart. While the territories, if you see, you have the Australian Capital Territory, something like we have the National Capital Territory, NCR, National Capital Region and all. So they have National Capital Territory, capital being Canberra, that is the capital of Australia. Then you have the Northern Territory, the capital being Darwin. Now these are something, an aspect that you should know, but you should know from the perspective of map also. Now let us see the map of this. Okay. Before I go into the aspect where I show you the capitals also, it's important to understand the regions or the states and the territories. This is Western Australia. This is Southern Australia. This is Victoria. This is Tasmania, small island. This is New South Wales. Then you have the Queensland, right? And this is the Northern Territory. Again, remember, Northern Territory over here is the mainland territory. It is not considered as a part of your states. Remember this is a standard classification which is present in the Australian websites also. Various books confuse this. They confuse the mainland territory with states, or they might do is they will write state and territories and they will list 6 and 7, 8 like this. So this is something that you should know and very well understand this. Clear? So please do not get confused over here. Many students are going to say, no sir, let us add 7th and 8th also. These are also part of states. No, this is a standard connotation from the Australian government, right? Okay. Now, these are the various parts. Now the question comes, this is basically a representation of what we have done or written over here. Now let's see the capitals also. Now see, Western Australia has a capital of Perth. Now, how do you know Perth? Perth is a very important place where you have what? A center for cricket also, right? Obviously, you have beautiful cricket grounds along Brisbane, Melbourne, Sydney and all. But Perth, you will well remember, that is very known for fast pitches. So very good for fast bowlers. So all the students who are interested in cricket, you should be knowing all these places where India tends to play cricket also, right? So, okay. Western Australia, Perth. Now, if you see Northern Territory, this is the Northern Territory part, green. The capital is Darwin. Clear? Darwin. If you come here, you have Queensland. The capital is Brisbane. Now, New South Wales, you have the capital as Sydney, and you have the national capital territory as Canberra, that is again as part of New South Wales. This is the Canberra is the capital of Australia. Remember that very well. And a question can be asked, the national capital, that is Canberra, lies in which state? Technically it lies in the New South Wales region, but it is obviously a different territory altogether, like we have the NCR. So, but overall, within the territory, if you see, it is located within the New South Wales region. If you see Victoria, you have Melbourne. If you see Adelaide, it's the capital of Southern Australia. Clear? And over here, obviously, you have Tasmania and you have Hobart here. That is capital of Tasmania. Clear? Now the question will come, so how do we remember them? Bache, there is a very interesting technique of remembering these things. Let us see a mnemonic in order to remember it, because it becomes very, very difficult to remember, okay, whether Brisbane is on the top, on the north, or Canberra or Melbourne. Specifically, UPSC has played very often with the candidates where they have asked these four and asked them to arrange from north to south. In that particular case, that is a question of mapping. If you know it, you know it. If you do not, you lose your marks. So now, how do you remember these things? Let us see a mnemonic in order to remember it. I've decreased the font of this particular map. Now see here. In order to remember it, can you remember 3 degrees? In order to remember, what are the 3 degrees? BSc, Bachelor's of Science, MA, Master in Arts, and PhD. Right? Clear? Let us say, because initially you do the graduation, then you do the post-graduation, and then you do doctorate. Can we take it in similar manner? Now see this. Everybody see this. Go in a clockwise manner. B for Brisbane, S for Sydney, C for Canberra. So if I am going in a clockwise manner, what do I see? Let us take some other color. If I'm going from clockwise, I'm seeing Brisbane, then comes your Brisbane, then comes your Sydney, then comes your Canberra. MA, you have Melbourne, then you have Adelaide. Melbourne, then you have Adelaide. MA. After that, PhD. PhD. Now, H is just to remember it. H has no relevance. P means over here Perth and D means over here Darwin. So, now what do you understand out of it? If you move in a very clockwise manner, you will realize BSc is Brisbane, Sydney, Canberra. MA is Melbourne, Adelaide. PhD is P, let us say Perth, and D is Darwin. So, you can remember this in a clockwise manner. So this is a way to remember these things. Please remember, if you feel that the toppers who are performing so well, or the toppers who are able to get these questions right in your preliminary examination, or they're able to do well in your mains examination, it is not because they're super brilliant. It is because they do certain things differently. If you want to qualify the examination, it is not necessary that you do different things. It is important you can do things differently. This is what is the content that is provided to everybody. But doing such things makes it easier for you to remember. Now, if the question comes with respect to these important places, you will be able to attempt and get them right. Clear? So, you can quickly note it down while you can pause this video and again note these down. This is something very, 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 very important. Clear? Okay. Let's move ahead. Now comes the physical divisions of Australia. Now, please remember, we are not doing India that we need to go into a lot of details with respect to every physical division. When we are doing Australia, we have to go and understand what the divisions are. Obviously, I'll be doing a lot of things over here. So, brief idea should be present with respect to you that you should know these are the locations, these are the places. Now, if you have, again, I'm repeating this very carefully. If you have done this series, like Australia and other continents with respect to mapping, you will not find a single question which you are not able to attempt, particularly with respect to the mapping. So make sure you draw each and every map. You write each and every content that I'm teaching you in this particular session and in the forthcoming sessions, right? So physical divisions of Australia. First is the Eastern Highlands. I'll be showing you everything on the map, don't worry. Eastern Highlands, Western Plateau. Then you have the lot of deserts because Australia is known for large deserts. Central lowland and the Great Barrier Reef, again made up of coral polyps, something very famous, something associated with climatic change also nowadays, so becomes very, very important here. So write all these 5 divisions. These are physical divisions of Australia, something that we did with respect to India also. You remember the Himalayas, the Great Plains, the Peninsular Plateau, the islands, the coastal plains. Those were the physical divisions for India. And we had to go in a lot of detail with respect to India because that is important. Over here, we will be doing briefly what is required for this civil services examination. Now, see, first are the Eastern Highlands. Now, please remember, this Eastern Highlands basically talks about a long range. This region over here, a long range, that is a great dividing range and some associated ranges like the New England range and all. So, these are known as the Eastern Highlands, right? Now, it is not something that a single range is there. Though I've shown it in a form of a range, it is not a continuous range. It is a broken range also. There are a lot of plateaus also. There are a lot of other landscapes also that are present there. So that is why it is known as a highland, because relatively the height is more. Clear? And obviously there are a lot of ranges also, broken ranges also, some continuous also. So it's a mix of all. So what do we see? This is a chain of hills and mountains. This is known as a Great Dividing Range over here, which I've marked here. Then this is a small other range, which is a New England range, right? Now it stretches for greater than 3,500 kilometers. It is not a single mountain range. Please understand. Though I've shown it here in the form of a single range, it is not a single range. There are a lot of breaks that are there, a lot of different peaks are present, a lot of, let us say, small ranges are present. You can equate it to somewhat like the Eastern Ghats that we talk about, right? If you see, the Western Ghats in India are a relatively continuous range. The Eastern Ghats are broken ranges. So similarly over here, you will see that the Great Dividing Range is also a little broken, but again, it stretches for greater than 3,500 kilometers. So this is your Eastern Highlands. Quickly note it down in your papers. Draw the map again. Draw this range. Draw both the ranges. The New England range over here, the Great Dividing Range over here, and write the content also along with it, right? This gives you an idea of what you have to study with respect to these physical divisions, right? Quickly note it down. Now, after having done this, first we have done, second was the Western Plateau. Now let us move on to the Western Plateau. Now this is a huge region over here, which is known as the Western Plateau. Now please remember, this region is very famous for the various deserts that are present, that we will see as a different slide also. So it is famous for the various deserts. Again, a lot of characteristics come, a lot of Australian Aboriginal tribes are present here because you see extremes of climatic conditions, particularly very hot climate is here. So it makes the survival very difficult. The population density is less than 2 persons per square kilometer. So just you can imagine the condition that is over here. That is why please remember, when you saw the various important metropolitan cities like Melbourne, Sydney, Canberra, Brisbane, Adelaide, Perth, these are the places which are very densely populated. Other than that, if you go to other regions, there hardly you will find anyone. That is why, in spite of being so huge, it is of no use practically in a way for Australians, because the population density is so low in these regions. Already the density is high, particularly in those major cities which we just now studied, and I told you in a clockwise manner how you can remember them. BSc, MA, PhD, right? So over here, this is an eroded plateau. So it is due to the various erosional activities, it has been eroded. Has various sinkholes filled with water. Again, a lot of sinkholes are there, so water has been trapped inside it. It is a home to several deserts, which we will study. Lot of deserts are present over here because of extreme conditions. Very hot conditions are present. So what you see is very hot conditions and makes survival very difficult. Extremes of temperatures, right? Home to Australian Aboriginal tribes. Now, what do you mean Aboriginal? Indigenous tribes that are present. So, few tribes are also present here. So, these regions become important from that perspective, right? Okay, let's move ahead. Let's come to the desert now. Now, see over here. If you see over here, we have the Western Plateau. Now, if we move ahead, the third part is a desert. Now, you see these major deserts which are located on the regions which we have marked as a Western Plateau. Now, in the examination, please remember, the question that comes with respect to deserts are generally, they will mention the name of the desert and they will mention the country in front of that. Remember that? They will not go into detail that arrange them from north to south. That is something really difficult also. They can ask, but majorly the question which come with respect to desert is, they will ask you, let us say, they will ask you Gibson Desert and they will write the name in front of it, Africa. Let us say they will write Tanzania. At that time, you will get confused that this Gibson Desert is in Tanzania or Australia if you haven't read it. So you will possibly mark it right and you will get the answer wrong. So that is why knowing these deserts, at least knowing these deserts, becomes very, very important. Now see here. On the north is a great sandy desert, right? To the eastern side, you have the Tanami Desert over here. If you come south of this, you have the Simpson Desert that is present here, right? Now let's come south of the Great Sandy Desert, you have the Gibson Desert, and below that is a Great Victorian Desert. So these are 5 very important deserts of Australia and you should be very well aware of them. So quickly draw the map, pause the video, and along with it, write or draw these areas which are present here. If you know them, you similarly we will be doing for the other continents also. So by the time where all the continents are finished, you will have all the deserts that are present in all the continents and the regions or the countries. Along with them, various other features. So what will be done is any question that comes on these topics, you will be able to do them flawlessly, right? Okay, done. So let's move on to the fourth feature, that is a central lowland. Now see, this basically lies between the Eastern Highlands and the Western Plateau. The central lowland, if you see the Eastern Highlands were here, Great Dividing Range and all, New England Range, and on this region you had the Western Plateau where you had a lot of deserts and all. Between them lies your central lowland. An important region because it is drained by a lot of rivers. So that is why this region is important also. Now see, this is an extensive plain between the Eastern Highlands that we had studied here and the Western Plateau. See here again, this is a Western Plateau, this is the Eastern Highlands. So over here between these two features you have the central lowlands. It is drained by 2 major rivers, Murray and Darling. Now these 2 rivers we will be doing in the drainage system in the coming slides, but you should know them that this region is drained by these 2 important rivers in particular. Why? Because in the examination they will ask you that central lowland region is drained by which among the following rivers. You can ask them, you can be asked because these are things that are mentioned in the old NCRTs. So UPSC tends to pick up those things very easily. Now, why this thing becomes another, from another different aspect also important is, there's a very important lake, Lake Eyre, here 12 meters below the sea level. So where is Lake Eyre? See here. This lake is basically what? Lake Eyre. It is below the sea level. This is something very interesting. Like if you have the Kuttanad region, the region in Kerala, which is below the sea level, similarly you have this Lake Eyre, which is below the sea level. So sometimes what happens is, if UPSC wants to really pull your leg, they might give you which among the following are below the sea level. They will like Kuttanad and they will write Lake Eyre. And then you should be aware that I have written here, it is below the sea level, right? So this is the 4th physical division. Last physical division which we generally study is a Great Barrier Reef. Now you should know this very well, that Great Barrier Reef over here is basically a coral reef made up of coral polyps, right? Now these are very, very intricate, very important also because they are the natural wonders obviously. These are also being, why this is in news of late is because these coral reefs are slowly getting destroyed and badly impacted. The reason behind it is because of the climate change that is taking place. Because see, for the coral polyp also there is a optimum range of temperature and conditions that should be present for them to bloom and to be present there. If the temperature increases, possibly their existence also will finish in a way. So that is why the Australian government, along with the other cooperating with the United Nations also, they're working on this to resolve the climate change issues, prevent acidification of the oceans, particularly the Pacific regions also. So they're continuously working on that. Leaving that apart, you should know that this is a region of Great Barrier Reef. There are certain regions in which, see, it is it is not completely along with coast, it is a little bit far away. There are certain regions in which this barrier reef is almost 12 kilometers close to the coast. Sometimes it might even go till 200 kilometers also. So it varies. No, though we just have to show it, but it can vary, right? So this is the largest coral reef in the world. Again, you should know Great Barrier Reef is the largest coral reef. It lies along the east coast of the Queenslands, right? It is about 2000 kilometers long. It is one of the natural wonders of the world. So this is the Great Barrier Reef that you should know. Quickly note it down, pause the video, note down, create the map and draw this. Clear? Okay. So let's move ahead. Now comes the aspect. Now you will say, sir, we have done with the physical divisions, but we did not do those mountain ranges and all while we did the similar things while we were doing the Indian geography. Please understand. In Indian geography, when we are doing, we have to go into a lot of other details also. Over here, we will do the ranges also, the important ranges that are present here. Clear? Now see, these are the important ranges. Though we have done these part, I'm going to repeat it again. See here. If you see, I have mentioned the territories or the regions also along with the ranges. If you see, let us start with the Northern Territory. Now, it has an important range which is known as McDonnell Range, right? If you move towards the Western region, this is Western Australia, you have two important ranges that are present here. One is Hammersley Range, and the south you have the Darling Range. You won't believe that this question has been asked in the examination also with respect to Darling Range, right? Now, when you do the mapping, what do you get out of it? First of all, you know that Darling Range is in Australia, right? You will also get to know, secondly, that Darling Range lies in the western part of Australia. Third thing also you get to know that it is in the Western Australian state of Australia. In the examination, obviously Darling Range will come. They will put a name of a country over there, possibly to confuse you. If they really want to ask a very difficult question, possibly they will ask you, Darling Range lies in the region, let us say slash East Australia. Then again it will be wrong because it is in the West Australian region. So this question has been asked, and in the PCS, so almost on a repeated basis, the questions from Australia come. That is why I've taken this continent first. The reason is something that is, it is neglected. What people tend to do, they firstly do Asia, Africa, and they focus on there. When the questions from these continents are asked, then they're not able to answer it. So what did we do? McDonnell Range in the Northern Territory, the Western Australia Hammersley Range, then you have the Darling Range over here. If you come to Southern Australia, you have Musgrave Range. What is it called? Musgrave Range. If you come again towards the further eastern part, you have the Finders Range. What? Finders Range. Now come here, Queensland. Now you see, again, Queensland is famous for what? Because its coast also has the Great Barrier Reef. Along with it, it has the largest section of the Great Dividing Range. Now, Great Dividing Range does not end here. It continues like this, and further moves down. Clear? On the eastern side, you have this New England Range, and southern part. With the extension of the Great Dividing Range, you have this part, which is the Australian Alps. It basically is, it lies in the New South Wales also and Victoria also. So, New Australian Alps is present in both the states. If you see New Zealand, you have the Southern Alps over here, again famous. So, these are the important ranges of Australia. Clear? You should be very well aware of it. Again, pause the video, create the map and mark them well, right? I'm giving you a minute, quickly draw them, right? Pause the video and do it. Hopefully done. Okay. Now see, once you have done this ranges, why it becomes important? See, when we are doing continent-wise slowly, what will happen is it will be easier for you to remember all of them, right? We will do this. We will move on to Antarctica also. We will cover all the continents. So please remember, I'm telling you, there's a one-stop solution for all the mapping problems that you can come across, right? So let's move ahead. Then comes important mountain peaks. Now, if you're doing the ranges, then it becomes important that we need to do the peaks also, right? So let's see here. I have decreased the font of the names of the ranges. And what are the important peaks? So there are certain important peaks which you should remember. What happens is, see, every continent is going to have hundreds and hundreds of mountain peaks. You cannot remember them also, and you don't have to remember them. There are certain peaks which you should remember. See, with respect to India, you would have seen that while I was teaching you the Indian physical geography, we covered so many peaks that you would have already seen in the lectures. But over here, we do not have to go into detail, because what we are going to do is important peaks that are present in, that have been asked, that are present in the NCRTs, or certain aspects which we consider as important, we have covered them. So what we assume and presume over here is they do not ask beyond these things, right? So let's see. Within the Hammersley range, you have Mount Bruce, B-R-U-C-E, Bruce. If you come to the McDonald range, you have Mount Zeal, Z-E-I-L, Mount Zeal. If you come to the Musgrave range, you have Mount Woodruff, right? Woodruff. Now, if you come to the region of, please understand this, the Great Dividing Range only, over here you have Mount Kosciuszko. This is the tallest mountain peak over here. Please write it down. 1, 2, 3, 4. These are the 4 peaks that you should be aware of. Because this is the tallest, it can be asked also. Looking at the name or listening to the name, possibly if we write the country in front of it as Italy, you will mark it correct. Right? It is not in Italy, it is in Australia. Clear? So please quickly again draw the map. What you can do is in this particular map only you can mark the peaks, right? Okay, let's move ahead. Important rivers. Now see, this is a drainage system. Now again, questions are very often asked, this which river belongs to which particular continent or country. So we should understand these things. Let's start from the western part. You have a very important river over here which is known as Murchison, right? If you move further forward in the Northern Territory part, you have this river which is known as Victoria. Clear? If you move further here, you will be realizing there are 2 important rivers. Now, these 2 rivers basically drain in Lake Eyre, right, which we had studied, Lake Eyre. So, these 2 rivers basically are Diamantina and Thompson, these 2 rivers, right? Now, this Darling-Murray Basin again becomes very important over here. Remember one thing, Murray is the longest river, 2,508 kilometers. You have another one river joining it. This is known as Darling River, and another tributary joining it is Lachlan, or Lachlan is as it is known as. So these are the important rivers which you should be aware of. Quickly draw the map, and along with it, quickly draw these rivers. See, you will be having this document. Many would be thinking, sir, can we draw it later on? Yes, I will be giving you this document. This PDF will be available in the Telegram account along with the link attached to the YouTube video also. So you can download the content from there also, no problem. But if you want to draw along with me, it will be easier for you to remember it also while you're listening to the lecture. Along with it, it will be good for you so that you will be practicing it also. Okay, so these are the rivers: Murchison, Victoria, Diamantina, Thompson, Darling, Lachlan, Murray. Murray being the longest river, 2,508 kilometers. Clear? Okay, let's move ahead. Important lakes. Now see, you would have seen Diamantina and Thompson both basically drain into Lake Eyre. So this is something again important. That is why Lake Eyre is again important. Now there are certain others also. There is on the north over here is Lake Woods. Then you have the Disappointment Lake. Certain names which are very interesting, like Disappointment Lake. Possibly these questions are generally picked up by UPSC also because the name is interesting. So you should always remember the Lake Disappointment basically lies in Australia, right? Then you have the Lake Murray. Then you have Lake Barley. Over here you have Lake Gardiner, and then you have Lake Torrens. Now these are few important lakes that you should be aware of. Many will be thinking, sir, how do we remember these things? So many lakes come, beta. When you note these things down and you have few A4 sheets where you have drawn these maps, when you revise it 3-4 times, na, these things will be like captured in your mind in the form of images. I'm telling you again. Initially, it takes a lot of effort to make these maps, but once you have done it, it becomes really very easy. Clear? Okay. Next comes to important water bodies. See here. See, we have done with the internal stuff with respect to the physical divisions. Now, what are the surrounding lakes or let us say oceans that are there? See, if you see, Australia is basically surrounded by 2 major oceans. If you see on the western side is the Indian Ocean. On the eastern side is the Pacific Ocean, right? Now, along with them, there are a lot of water bodies that are present here. Let's see them. On the northwestern region, you have the Timor Sea over here. If you come here, this Gulf, this is known as Gulf of Carpentaria. Carpentaria over here. If you see over here, this is a coral sea because again you have the Great Barrier Reef over here. So this is known as Coral Sea. If you come here, between the northern and the southern island of Australia, between them is the Cook Strait. Between New Zealand and Australia, you have the Tasman Sea. Between Australia and Tasmania, you have this particular strait which is known as Bass Strait. Many times this question has been asked. They will ask you that between Australia and Tasmania, between the Australian mainland, because obviously Tasmania is part of Australia, between the Australian mainland and Tasmania, which strait lies between both of them? They might give you a name. Let us say even Cook Strait, Bass Strait, it is Bass Strait. Between northern and the southern island of Australia, you have the Cook Strait. Now this, if you realize, is like a bite of an apple that you have taken. So that is why it is known as Great Australian Bight. If you come towards the western part, this particular bay is known as a Shark Bay. These are the important dimensions, water bodies or concepts that you should be remembering. Please quickly note it down because these are important for your examinations. Clear? Okay, so two things. One is the oceans that you should know and other aspects that you should be aware of. Clear? Okay, let's move ahead. Natural vegetation. Now, please remember, we will not go into details of what each of them or what their characteristics are. Well, the reason behind it is because we will be coming with a geography series, physical geography series in few days also, where we will be covering the natural vegetation also, the concepts also over there, along with it, climate also. So those things will be explained in detail over there also, right? So if you see this green region over here, this green region over here, these are open forest. If you realize this yellow large region, you would have seen with respect to the Western Plateau and various deserts. So this is a desert region majorly. Scrubland, so scrubs are present over here. So these are what? The scrublands. The pink region over here. Now please quickly remember one thing. The color scheme that I have made over here is important from the perspective that do not confuse it. Please just have a look. Do not confuse it that these schemes are mentioned that will basically influence the type of vegetation. Because many people get confused so that you have drawn pink, green and all. So are these grasslands or those? Please do not confuse. This is just a representation of the colors to make it distinguishing, right? So what do we see? The green part is the open forest. The red part are the scrublands. Over here, alpine vegetation. That means because of the altitude is high, so you have alpine vegetation over here. Then you have, this is the desert regions. Then you have this pink region that we have. These are the grasslands. Then you have, this is the woodland. So this is the natural vegetation. You again do not have to go into details regarding this. You just have to have a brief idea. When we will do the topic of physical geography in that biogeographical part, we will be doing or going through all of these vegetations across the world and their classifications and their explanations. So that is why we are not going into intricate detail with respect to each right now. It is just for your understanding. So you should be aware of these. Clear? Okay. Please note it down. Climatic regions, again, you know that vegetation is very well influenced by the climate. So when we see over here, northern part is a monsoon type of climate. That means it experiences reversal of winds. Again, these climatic regions we will be doing in the physical geography series in the climatology chapter. So just now you should have a brief idea what these basically are. Then you have the equatorial type of climate over here, right? Then you have savanna region over here, right? You have the humid subtropical region. These are the maritime region. The pink are the Mediterranean region. And obviously this is a hot desert climate. That means there is extreme of climate over here. That is why it is known the hot desert. So this is what your climatic regions of Australia. Let's quickly note it down. Now let's move to the last, one of the last parts, that is the minerals. Now please remember, why I have mentioned mineral is that very often the questions from the economic geography part are being asked in your prelims as well as the mains examination. And the students are least prepared for these part, particularly with respect to world. In India, with respect to India, they might possibly read also economic geography part, but with respect to world, they generally avoid it. So what I have done is, I have mentioned certain regions where certain minerals are found in Australia. The important ones, you do not have to go into again R&D doing various dimensions with respect to all those minerals. You just have to have an idea of them. Now see here. I have mentioned few important minerals: coal, uranium, copper, lead, iron, and diamond. So if you see over here, in a way it can be asked that Australia's eastern region has large number of coal deposits, or coal deposits regions are present. So that is true, right? So that is why how questions are asked from the based on map. So these are the C means coal over here. Coal, coal, coal. Over here also coal is here. So a lot of coal deposits are present here. Uranium, if you see the northern part over here, has very important uranium deposits, right? So you should be knowing about them. Then again, copper is also present in abundance. If you see, copper is present here, here in the Northern Territory part. Again, if you come here, then it's present. Diamond is also found in the Northern Territory region. You have iron. This is iron. Iron is found here also. Iron is found here also. So iron has good number of deposits are present in the western region of Australia. Now lead, Pb is lead. Lead is found in Tasmania also, and also in the Australian mainland. So these are the few minerals that you should be aware of and have the knowledge of, right? So you quickly draw this map so that you are aware of the minerals, right? Okay, so hopefully done. So here we come to the end of the Australian mapping series. Please remember this. I am again guaranteeing you one thing: if you continue with the series properly, you use these videos properly, along with this Australian video and along with the other videos that are going to come, I can assure you that you will be able to answer any question that comes from the mapping. It is a guarantee to you because we are covering from a very comprehensive manner and something that is required for this examination. Please remember, I can add tens of other things, but what will happen, that will burden you, and that is not required for the examination. So we have to focus with respect to what the examination wants first, so that we can increase your score. Along with it, having a basic understanding of what is required. Please remember, we will have the advanced aspects with respect to climate classifications and all when we will be doing climatology series and all. Right now over here, when we are studying the continents, we have a restriction with respect to what detail we have to go, because that will be irrelevant for UPSC in that case. So what is important, that you follow this series very religiously. If you follow this series religiously, the major outcome is going to be there will be no question in the preliminary examination that you will not be able to attempt with respect to the mapping, and in the mains examination with respect to, let us say, vegetation, with respect to climate, with respect to minerals and all those questions that come, you will be able to attempt them well. So this was a session of the Australian continent. I am Harpreet Singh. We'll be meeting you in the next video on Thursday, that is Antarctica. So God bless you. Lots of love from my side. If you like the video, you can give your views, you can give your comments in the session. Every Thursday, we'll be coming with a continent, a different continent. So 7 videos of these mapping series are going to come. Make the best use of it and make sure that you qualify this examination by using these videos. God bless you. Take care and Jai Hind.